On the 5th of October 1968, Chris Alp was involved in a plane collision over Moorabbin Golf Course. When he was 7 years old, Erich Hubel contracted polio. As a result, both men are paraplegics. They are also sportsmen. In fact, in the highly competitive world of paraplegic sport, Chris and Erich are among the best in the world. Apart from the much publicised Moscow Olympics, 1980 was also the year for another Olympic Games, the Handicapped Olympics, staged in Holland in July. At the Australian National Handicapped Games in 1979, both Chris and Erich were selected for those games to compete in events from the 100 to the 1500 metres. Naturally, being selected meant an increased training routine, a training routine hampered by their work and study commitments, and to a lesser extent by the misconceptions about paraplegics which still exist in the community at large.
Good, right. You got a coin on you? Heads. Ah, my break. So, who's going to win this one? We'll see. Go on, keep going.
How do you find the general public reaction to paraplegics?
Well, it's a difficult one, isn't it? Really.
Well, I think everyone seems to react differently.
Yeah, the reactions are as varied as the people you meet.
Kids, for example, when you're wheeling on the street, always yell out comments like, "You guys having a race?" Always seem to get that.
Yeah, yeah. I think being in a wheelchair, people react to you in more extreme ways. You'll feel that people are either embarrassed, they will ignore you, they won't look you in the eyes, they don't know how to handle you. Or on the other hand, you get a lot of people who are extremely friendly and will just say hello to you or make some sort of comment. And very often you'll get an attractive looking girl saying, smiling at you and saying hi, which she probably wouldn't do to the average guy. So it's got its good points. And then again, other people are trying to be very helpful to you. And, are you right? Can I help you to get up there? Which you don't really like, do you? Because it's
I'm
sort of
always being asked if I want help getting my chair into the car.
Yeah.
At 22, Chris is in the final year of his studies for Commerce and Arts degrees at Melbourne University.
My mother originally said to me, "Chris, you can't push a wheelbarrow, you can't sweep streets." I realised that, and I realised that what I would have to do would be to use my brain and go to university. It took me a while to get settled down and really try hard at school. But once I did that, I realised it was my only channel in life, and I had to push myself, and I had to go to university, and I had to do those things that a lot of people wouldn't normally try. I always had a lot of fun in the chair. I always liked being in the chair because it's a great novelty. I've always tried to keep up with people who walk along the street, I've always tried my hardest to be as normal as possible. I've gone overboard doing it. I've even hitchhiked. I hitchhiked to Adelaide on 5 occasions. And when you're in a chair, it's an interesting sort of thing to do.
Although Chris has adjusted to being paraplegic, the early hospital experience can be traumatic. Darren Wild, a young jockey recently injured in a training accident, is learning to adjust to this new lifestyle at the Austin Hospital.
Well, what I do remember is I was sent out there to gallop a horse called Young Leo up a furlong, and I ran him up the furlong, we got to the winning post, and my saddle started to slip. So I've hung on for about 500 metres and ended up going between 2 rails and hitting a steel post.
Do you remember much after that, or just a bit of a blank until we got to the Austin?
Well, after that, I remember calling out for help because I was led in a gully and it was pitch black, nobody could see me. So I finally got help and I passed out again, and then the next thing I remember, they put me into the ambulance.
Darren, do you blame anyone or anything for the accident?
No, I couldn't blame anyone or anything. It's just one of those things that shouldn't have happened but did happen.
How did your family and friends react to the accident?
Real good. I expected, like, my mother to be a bit upset, which she was upset, but I expected it to be worse than what she actually was, but she come through real good, and so did everybody else.
I notice it's your 18th birthday today, and by the number of cards you've got here, you've got a lot of friends.
Oh, I didn't know I had so many friends, actually. I got friends I didn't even know about.
During those first few days, what were you thinking about? What were your immediate thoughts after the accident?
Well, would I walk again? Like, nobody knew definite, or they still don't, actually, but they're a little bit more, well, how could I put it? They think they know now that I won't.
What do you see now, Darren, as your major obstacle over the next few weeks?
Well, just build myself up as good as I can to get out of here.
Right. Do you have an immediate goal to that end?
Yeah, do you mean when I get out of here, what am I going to do?
Yeah, right.
Well, when I'm turned 21, I'd like to get a trainer's licence out and just have 1 or 2 of my own horses in work.
So you definitely want to become involved in racing again?
Oh yeah, there's no doubt about that. I'll be into it again.
Facts, factual things, like the existence of something.
Until very recently, paraplegics were considered unemployable for normal jobs, or if they did find work, they met with a great deal of ignorance about their abilities. Now, due to the increasing number of paraplegics in normal working situations and the involvement by the disabled in sporting areas, many widely held misconceptions are being changed.
But you've got to start early. You've got to start early. You've got to start early. Well, how early would you start? Oh, I promise.
Well, as a teacher, surprising enough, I've never ever had any problems about being accepted by the kids. They look at me. Originally, yes. In the first time I walk into a class, the students don't really. You can see some sort of hesitation, some amazement and wonder on the students' faces. But at the end of that lesson already, I'm their teacher and they're my students, and the fact that I'm on crutches doesn't come into it anymore for the rest of the year. You may at times get 1 or 2 individuals coming up and asking you what happened, and well, I tell them, and then that's usually it. And there's never ever any sort of stirring or making fun of my disability at all.
Can you remember your reaction to the accident just after it happened?
Yes, very vividly. We were flying in the plane, a very sunny afternoon. All of a sudden we hit another plane, and within moments later we crashed on the golf course. I remember I never was unconscious. I opened my eyes and I went to get out of the plane, and my very thoughts were, I'm paralysed, and I couldn't move.
And how soon after that were you at the Austin Hospital?
Within a few hours I'd been moved to the Austin Hospital.
What were your first reactions to being hospitalised like that?
Well, at that stage, as you can imagine, I was in a lot of pain, and I don't really remember. I was being pretty doped, and I suppose it took about 2 weeks before I really came to terms with the fact that I was going to be in a chair. And it didn't really worry me, I suppose, at that age, at 12 years old. It was a bit of a novelty being in an aircraft collision, and I suppose the effect didn't really sink in for a few years.
In other parts of the world, Europe especially, paraplegic and handicapped sporting events attract large audiences, and most of the larger meetings receive extensive media coverage. In Australia, however, the press tend to ignore the area of disabled sport, and there's virtually no financial assistance given to our paraplegic athletes. The development of the special sprint chairs, which Chris and Erich designed and built themselves, cost nearly $1,000.
Well, I enjoy the training part itself very much. I don't think if I didn't enjoy training that I would be doing this. It's not just for winning, although a lot of it is. You know, to get that gold over in the Olympics, or to get any medal for that matter. My hopes at the moment aren't that high on gold, but I'll certainly be training my guts out for it, and that is my aim. But training itself is beautiful. It's a good experience. I love getting out in the fresh air. I love doing the physical exercise. To me, it's the best way of relaxing. My mind relaxes completely after a hard day's work. Just to get out on the track and just to get your body moving clears your mind of any worries or anything you've got. It's just that rhythm of pushing and pushing for a long distance. I love it.
been a few weeks now since you came here from your accident, and I think it's time we settle down today for a serious chat about what's going to happen to you in the future. You remember when you came in that I told you that you had broken your spine, and also at the same time had damaged your spinal cord, which lies inside the spine. And at that stage we couldn't be certain, but we felt there was a fairly strong prospect that this might be a permanent injury. Now, we've been talking to you again at other times as we've gone along, and I think enough time has passed now for us to be sure, as sure as we can be, without being 100% certain perhaps, that your injury is permanent, and that this means that there will not be any movement in the legs again, or any feeling in the legs. The process, having told you all this bad news, is to rehabilitate you, and this means getting you up in a wheelchair, but not just popping you in a wheelchair one day and sending you home the next. It's a process that takes 3 or 4 months. You have to learn to sit in a wheelchair. You've lost your sense of balance because of this paralysis and because of the certain amount of loss of feeling in your body. Your arms and shoulders will have to be strengthened to take over the job that your legs were doing before, to get you in and out of the wheelchair, onto your bed, toilet, and so on. You will need to be strong enough to lift yourself. Now, the rehabilitation process, which you'll be starting very soon when you start to sit out of bed in your chair, is something that involves a lot of people, a team of doctors, physiotherapists, OTs, nurses, social workers. But none of these people can do the work for you. You actually have to do the hard work yourself. You have to do the exercises to strengthen your arms and shoulders. You have to do the balancing exercises. And you have to really take the initiative to start learning all these techniques that we will teach you. Certainly our role is one in which we have to teach you and guide you, but you actually have to do the work. Do you think you're ready for a bit of hard work at this stage?
Yep.
That's good.
For paraplegic track and field athletes, the attainment of strength and speed is, of course, vital. The 100 metres is covered in about 18 seconds, and the longer the distance, the more competitive wheelchair athletes become with able-bodied runners. In America recently, a marathon was actually won by a wheelchair competitor. To achieve that sort of success takes time and dedication. In addition to the weights and swimming, Chris and Erich spend 4 days a week at the track itself, pushing up to 10 miles a night for endurance training and alternating between 100 and 400 metre sprints on the other nights. The Paralympics are now the 3rd largest sporting competition in the world. Considering that organised events for paraplegic men and women began only 20 years ago, it's clear that disabled sport has come a very long way in a short time. It's also clear that paraplegic sport has now come out of the gimmick class to establish itself in its own right.
Is this the first time you've been up since the accident? a plane?
No, I've been up before. I went to Perth last year.
Right. Do you still get nervous, you know?
Oh, very much so, because of the accident in the aeroplane. I get nervous every time. So you get that feeling that something could go wrong.
A lot of people think that if suddenly they were in my position, they think, oh, I couldn't cope with that. I just don't know what I would do. And they look at someone like me and say, oh, isn't he marvellous, or whatever they think. And it doesn't work like that. If you suddenly wake up one day and you've broken your back, or you're blind, or you're deaf, or your dog dies, or anything, you accept it. You've got to live with it. That's life.